Everyone, I'm Charlie, and welcome back to another DraftKings DFS Slate breakdown. Champions League Wednesday, we have here. We're starting on the DraftKings Sportsbook just because one of our YouTube videos on FSI got flagged for I think showing SofaScore had like a ad for like a different sportsbook that running against YouTube's terms of service. So we're moving to the DraftKings Sportsbook. This is not an endorsement or anything from them. We're just trying to look at the game odds here, just in relation for kind of how it works around DFS. And of course, they have Real Madrid at minus 130, biggest favorites on the slate. They are, of course, down that big deficit on aggregate here. So the sports books thinks that Real Madrid can get it done here, even if they don't necessarily go through. And then Inter Milan Bayern, they have this as basically a complete toss-up, which is super interesting. Inter lead by 1 goal on aggregate there. And I thought we could also look at some goal scoring odds here. Mbappe is the leading favorite on this slate, followed by Harry Kane at plus 130. So I always kind of keep that in mind in my process, is just who's most likely to score. It's just always something to keep in mind. However, of course, it doesn't factor in like having a good floor, but just because a guy might have like a lower goal scoring odd, like a Rodrigo for example, here, if there's like no Modric, he has Monopoly. I feel like the difference between him and Mbappe is a lot slimmer, despite like maybe Mbappe's more likely to score, but Rodrigo can just get those 12 points in floor, you'd hope, with the Monopoly. So that's something to balance out there. In terms of projected lineups and set pieces for Real Madrid, it should be a Rodrigo Monopoly in this lineup. That's why I kind of picked him out specifically. However, of course, if Luka Modric is playing, he would be the favorite there to take. For Arsenal, it should be a Saka and Rice split. Odegaard is another guy who sometimes takes. However, he doesn't really take corners over Saka. You might get some free kicks though. Inter and Bayern. For Inter, it should be DiMarco and Calhanoglu splitting. One sec, my dog is on top of the counter. And then for Bayern, it should be Olise and Kimmich. Okay, sorry about that. Now let's get into pricing here. Oh God, you're not. Oh, wait, I'm on the wrong day. Well, that's awkward. We are moving to the prices for Wednesday here. I was looking at Tuesday here. It was a weird Tuesday slate, huh? Like the goalkeeper was optimal. Emmy Martinez, who gave up like 2 goals within the first like 20 minutes. That's super wild to see, and just shows how like crazy these aggregate scores can make these slates, especially for goalkeeper, because just because your team is losing the game, you still might be up on aggregate, and like the flow is completely different than like a normal slate. So yeah, like aggregate's a big thing to keep in mind here, which is why it's so important to remember that Arsenal are down 3-0 and that Inter are up 2-1. But now in terms of prices, Mbappe 9,600, leading man on the slate here, best goal scoring odds. It's hard to make an argument against him. He got that nasty red card over the weekend in La Liga. However, it doesn't affect his Champions League status. He's kind of a scary fade just because we know he has those high goal scoring odds. He has decent in floor, just in, like shot and goals. Like an Mbappe here is going to be super popular. I have no doubt about that. It's just whether you feel you could maybe dodge the maybe 1 goal he's likely to get here, which you definitely can if like a Harry Kane drops like a brace or Saka gets like an assist and like 10 floor. So just because Mbappe's kind of in like this prime position doesn't necessarily mean he's going to make it into that optimal lineup. And however, in cash, I think it's going to be a hard fade just because, um, yeah, like I said, those goal scoring odds are scary, and he has a bit of a floor in shots. Then there's Harry Kane himself. It's a tougher matchup. Is the issue there? I loved him first. Like he did fine. Like 13 in floor is super solid. Bayern are still down on aggregate, so like I don't think this is a bad spot for Kane either. Mbappe, Kane, I think are both fine. Same with Vinicius Jr. I maybe just put him a tier below those two guys above him. And then Bukayo Saka. I really liked him the first leg. He did fine, like 11 points. I'm a little bit more scared of him here with Arsenal so far up. Like this could be just essentially a training drill of offense versus defense in this game. We could see Arteta pull just some crazy low block, like 5-5-1 or something, or like 5-4, like one. That works out right. Yes, that adds up to the right numbers for that. formation. But yeah, like I think they can be super defensive here. I wouldn't be surprised if like Saka just doesn't get many opportunities for floor. You're probably looking for more of a ceiling game from him. You kind of need a goal contribution rather than getting there in floor. God, come on. This dog is being terrible right now. I'm going to keep him with me as I record now. You know what? You can show up. All right. But where was I? Oh yeah, Saka. Then there's Rodrigo, who I think if there's no moderates, I think this is a super tempting option. Real Madrid should get a ton of corners here just because they are down a ton. Like they should just go for it, and that usually leads to a ton of shot on goals, ton of set pieces, which bodes well for Rodrigo here to get there. However, the scary thing about him is that he's not a 90-minute player typically. Like there's a strong chance he gets subbed early. And like I said, we just have to watch out if Luka Modric is starting because that just kind of flips it completely. He goes from like a monopoly set piece taker to like taking nothing. Otherwise, yeah, I really like this Rodrigo spot. Then there's these Inter guys. They broke the slate last time we saw these teams. Like Lautaro, 20 points. Thuram, I know, was up there too. They've both been priced up slightly is the annoying thing there. But I could definitely see this Bayern game opening up after a couple goals. Like if there's an early goal for Bayern, a tie becomes even. Both teams could really go for it here. So yeah, I like those Inter and Bayern forwards and GPP especially. I don't think I'd get to them in cash because we have those Real Madrid forwards on the slate. We have Kane, Saka, who I think will probably get a lot more steam than your Inter forwards. Leroy Sané at 5,400, was he in projected? He was. I played him this last, like he was not good at all. Like, he had 3 points. That was just not great for me. I really bad at that slate. But can't win them all. And I'm not afraid to go back here just because that is so cheap. Like these games could both open up kind of like we saw for both the Barcelona Dortmund game and the PSG game that we saw today. Both teams to scored in both games. Both teams to score hit in both games. We'll just say. So like that's the cheapest kind of attacker coverage you're going to get here is this 5,400 Leroy Sané. Midfielders, I think it's hard to get off of like your Olises and Kimmiches here. They're down on aggregate. Both of them did fine, but not crazy the first leg. You take like your 10 and 14, not Rodrigo. Where's Olise? 10 and 14, I think they had, yeah, in cash. Like that's completely fine. I think it's going to be just a common route just to go those two and maybe forwards where ownership divides a little bit. Like I more than likely will just start my builds with Kimmich and Olise. It's not as good of a spot for Rice, I don't think, with them down aggregate. He was the hero of the first leg, but I just don't think the stat line is sustainable whatsoever away at Real Madrid. I think he's gonna score two free kicks again. He probably might. He likely won't even get the chance to take two because of how defensive Arsenal probably set up. Tellanoglu was very good, or fine, I should say, rather than very good the first leg. And they're at home now, so I don't mind that as a play. Bellingham at 7K, I think could be super tempting in GPP formats, especially just because he's got a ton of upside to him. He's just essentially another attacker here in a midfield position. So yeah, I don't mind that Bellingham play. Odegaard at 5,900 feels super cheap. However, like I said, I'm a little bit scared of the Arsenal spot here for their attackers. Mikel Merino, same thing, just a little bit more of a GPP play. Luka Modric at 5,800. If he starts, I'm gonna be tempted by him. He probably only goes his 60, 70 minutes, but for 7, 8 points for 5K, probably take that. And he's definitely more of an opportunity to get more than that just because Real Madrid are down so much. And like I said with Rodrigo, they should just get a ton of set pieces here, which should do well for Luka if he starts. Then in terms of like your ultimate punt mids here, Mkhitaryan, sure. Limer's a right back sometimes, or usually right back, sure. I don't imagine I'll have a ton of those guys. I think it's mid-range, mid areas where I will be living, like your Modric's, your Kimmich's, your Olise's. Then like the pay-ups here are more kind of your forward guys, which I'm fine with, but it's tough to afford all of those guys plus paying up at forward slot. Then defenders. DiMarco didn't start that first leg. They have him in projected for this one. Carlos Augusto played well, which worries me a little bit. If Augusto starts over DiMarco, I think that puts Calhanoglu in a lot better spot. And I could see myself more likely to jam him with your Kimmiches and your Olises, potentially using both mid slots and utility on those three guys. However, if DeMarco starts, like I'm probably just gonna play. Like it's a bad D slate. I said it was a bad D slate in the first leg of these teams. Who did I go with? I think I had like Stanisic and Alaba maybe is my two defender slots. It's kind of ugly, and that's still the. Oh, maybe I played a center back. I think I played Alaba though. But either way, defender's ugly. That's what makes DeMarco so tempting. Take your set pieces, a little bit expensive, but he's also got the upside to kind of match that price. Only one goal contribution in the Champions League, but he's got a bunch more in the league. So I don't mind a DeMarco play. Or I should say I like the DeMarco play rather than don't mind. I think he's probably the best defender playing the slate by some distance. After him, it's just really gross. Like Stanisic has been priced up. Timber's been just not great. Guerrero. Oh, that's why I played at second D because he started in the midfield, which was just a complete surprise. He was not very good, but I'd play that again just for the upside. He was playing where Muller is projected right now. Like I'd completely go back to that for sure if we saw that again. He's worth just chasing the upside there, especially at 4K too if he starts there again. I don't think they'll probably do that just because it's pretty ineffective the first leg. But if we see him, at left back, I think that's a super tempting option for that price. Other guys, Darmian at 3,500, I don't mind if he's at right wing back, which they have him slated to play. And then after that, I think you're looking at center back punts like your Eric Dyers, your Rudigers. Sure, I don't mind either of those just as your bottom barrel punts. And goalkeeper, like I said, with these aggregate scores, it makes the goalkeeper position really weird. Like you get weird flow. Like your goalkeeper could be winning the game, but he'll have no real save opportunity just because his team's gonna be still pushing. These are down on aggregate. That's like for Araya, for example, which I think is gonna be a super tempting play here in cash, just because, like I said, even if Real Madrid go 1-0 up, they're just gonna have to push. That just is plenty of save opportunity for a goalkeeper and makes these like payoffs, I just feel like even more risky just because they're not gonna have a ton of save floor. It's gonna be like Arsenal hitting on the counterattack. So it's like not that unlikely at all if your goalkeeper gives up a goal and just has no real chances to save anything, just because they're gonna push so far forward that there's gonna be real opportunity for Arsenal on the counterattack. Probably a lot of 2v1 situations if Real Madrid really go for it that much, which is kind of scary. And it makes me just a little bit worried. Like Courtois could maybe win Real Madrid maybe win the game 3-1. Courtois has like 5 points, maybe makes one save, gives the goal. That's the best he can probably do. For Bayern, I just think their goalkeeper right now is bad. Is it Urbig who's supposed to start, or do they have somebody else healthier now? No, it's Urbig. I just don't think he's very good, frankly. Let's look at his logs real quick. Like I think he had one good game. Yeah, he had one good game and he had two just meh performances. Things have not been very great in the league either. And then we got like what Inter's goalkeeper who is mind blanking. Sommer, I don't mind either. But like I just goalkeepers are always just a super varying space position. I can't really fault anyone going any of them. I'll have shares of all four in GPP just because I don't think there's a ton of edge there. But I just like Raya in cash, like I said, for that save opportunity. And in terms of a core, DeMarco, bang, and then I'm going Elise Kimmich here, especially if we see Rodrigo set pieces and no Modric in here. I like the Inter down on aggregate. Should lend a ton of set pieces for them. Take the 10 floor, potentially get a goal contribution there. Suddenly you're chilling. Like I said, yeah, I love DeMarco as always. But yeah, guys, that'll be it, and I'll see you for the next one. Peace.